the Happy Hour podcast with your host, Joel Fleischman.
Hello, welcome to the Joel Fleischman Happy Hour podcast, episode number 45. Welcome. So we have got some beers here. This is Rebecca Kleefisch, everybody, running for the Wisconsin governor.
Cheers.
Which one do you have?
The Meyer Lemon and Key Lime.
Are you a beer drinker normally or
I
spirits?
am.
That's a seltzer.
Okay.
So
cheers. Oh, and
That's what we do.
I'm having this at
That's, yeah. We've done
1:44 in the afternoon
ones.
because it is 5
happy
o'clock
hour.
somewhere. It's happy hour.
Happy Hour podcast.
Are you happy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Drexel's mission to supply happiness. It's our mission to be
And
happy.
you have, actually, in the Kleefisch household, where behind that front door, you will find Drexel cabinets.
That's very cool. That front door would be from Drexel.
And that front door, also from Drexel.
Yeah, it really is.
You can probably pick things out of that photograph, and any photo I show you in my household right now, also Drexel.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Holding up well, 4 years in, right?
It is. I still consider it a new house.
Awesome.
This was my dream house. We bought 90 acres that we split with my sister and her family, and they built on one half, we built on one half, and we just kind of share the territory because we've got ponds in the backyard, and so we're a hunting and a fishing family, and so it's great to walk, and the farmer comes, and it's really great when they harvest because that's when the ducks and the geese come, and that means we get to eat.
I love it.
It's been years since we've been to the butcher.
So, lots of questions.
Go.
Not much time. I love it. So, you have been Miss Teen.
Okay, maybe
Right.
I should have.
Right.
In the ramp up to this, I was
Miss
asked,
Teen.
what do you not want
That was
to
it.
talk
That
about?
was the one. Miss
And I
Teen.
thought, out of all of the things, he will not, this has nothing to do with politics.
No.
So out of all of the things, this is not the
We're
thing
not
that
talking about it, though. We're just
Okay,
going to
good.
mention it. Miss Teen, you've been a reporter, right?
Yes.
I remember watching you. on
Slightly
TV.
more relevant to
Yeah,
my
we're
current
getting there.
situation.
Graduate from UW-Madison.
Also relevant.
Yeah, also relevant. So, all good stuff.
Yes.
How did you end up down the path of being lieutenant governor and now running for governor? What brought you here?
I was a journalist, as you mentioned, and I graduated from the University of Wisconsin, and their J school moved to Rockford, Illinois, because we all do things that are bad for us when we're young. Rockford, Illinois. I was a news anchor there at WIFR TV, which is the CBS affiliate, and then very shortly got promoted, was the morning show anchor, moved to Milwaukee and was the morning show anchor for WISN TV, which is the ABC affiliate in Metro Milwaukee. When I was in college, I met that man, my husband, Joel Kleefisch. He was also a reporter at WISN. And then,
Ooh.
I know, office romance. Our first date was actually to a Packers game, but they were playing the Vikings, and it was at the end of the season. They were really good, and I didn't realize it was a date, so we had each brought a bunch of money, and you know how you can buy scalp tickets in Ashwaubenon. So we were in the parking lot, and we all had pockets full of cash, thinking that we were going to buy these tickets and go in, but it was after kickoff, and tickets were still going for $250 a pop. That was really expensive. And I finally just said, fiscal conservative, even then in college, I'm like, let's go watch it at a bar. And so our first date was across the street from Lambeau Field, not actually at the Packers game. We watched the Packers rout the Vikings from the Stadium View bar.
Stadium View. I was going to say which one. And
Pure
Stadium
romance
View?
right
Yeah.
there. He did
That's a winner.
bar magic tricks the whole night, and I was smitten, and the rest is history,
That's
I
great.
suppose. Yeah. So I was a news anchor, was pregnant with Ella, the big girl with the blonde hair, and I had the baby, and I just figured the baby would just assimilate into my life because I was a career woman and I was going to be a news anchor in New York or DC or network, and that was my goal, and the baby would just figure out a way to fit in. That's not actually what happens when you have a kid. And I was really pulled in a bunch of different directions and had asked my bosses if I could go part-time. It was kind of before the era where that was common in television, and they instead...
Everywhere, really.
Really, yeah, you're right. And they offered me more money instead and said, no, stay and here's more money. And I said, no, I really want to negotiate with time. Very different, apples to oranges conversation. And they were wonderful, but still didn't quite understand. And I wound up leaving a $20,000 raise sitting on the anchor desk. And I stayed home with Al, got pregnant with Violet. And being a stay-at-home mom does not pay well, P.S. So we sold our house. I couponed like I was on a reality show. Still not enough to make ends meet. And so I started a small business from home. So I did a lot of media and marketing and public relations work and kind of parlayed my name ID from television into meeting clients. And it went really, really well. And by that time, Joel had also left the television station. He was working for the Wisconsin legislature, and he took me to the 2009 Republican State Convention for the GOP. And I was so starved for adult conversation and not picking up Cheerios and chicken McNuggets out of the back of my minivan that I was beyond excited. And so we started with talking with people, mostly our former media colleagues, reporters who were there to cover the state convention. And it was rumored that my husband, Joel, was running for lieutenant governor of the state of Wisconsin, state representative, chairman of the Criminal Justice Committee, would seem like a really good fit. We got into a conversation at this restaurant about who is running for lieutenant governor. And, this goes on to the point where someone asks me a very rhetorical question. And they say, well, how did so-and-so get elected to the United States Congress? It was Gwen Moore, actually. It was supposed to be rhetorical. I'm so starved for conversation with adults that I answer the rhetorical question. I'm like, well, Gwen Moore got elected because Emily's List is really wonderful at getting their female candidates early money in these campaigns. And I think the former colleague of ours in journalism was very surprised that I knew instantly what the problem was and had identified something that was lacking in Republican politics. And, we talked for a little bit more, and eventually he said and pointed at my husband, Joel, you shouldn't run for lieutenant governor. Becky, you should. And the rest is history.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great story.
Thank you.
So we are mainly speaking to a Drexel team, builders, obviously people across the world, right, Holman? They're
Yep.
very famous, obviously.
All countries.
Can I have your autograph, by the way?
Yeah, so at least 5 people will watch this. So questions about how your stance, your beliefs, your opinions, how you would be a governor as far as different issues. Mm-hmm. Big issues in our world, supply chain management,
Sure.
housing industry, small, medium businesses, and the COVID mandate, right? So we got to cover those 4 in a
That's
very
good.
short time. Talk to us.
Well, you mentioned supply chain management. Obviously, we have horrible transportation and logistics snarls right now. This is not just affecting Drexel and its employees. This is everywhere we go and everyone we talk to. We're a manufacturing and agriculture state. We're used to supplying and feeding the world from the state of Wisconsin. This is affecting everyone. And COVID is partly to blame, but the other part to blame is just bad leadership. And I frankly blame it on the President of the United States, Joe Biden, and Governor Tony Evers, because they are completely out of touch with economic reality because they've never really spent any time in economic reality. Joe Biden has spent his entire career in Washington, D.C. and dealing with bureaucrats there, and Tony Evers has been an educrat his entire life and has never spent any real significant time in the private sector. But me, for example, I built a home and it has Drexel products in it, and I spent the last 2 years as the jobs ambassador for Associated Builders and Contractors of Wisconsin. Before that, I was a huge advocate for manufacturers and growers all across the state, not only when it came to selling Wisconsin's story across the world, but also countrywide, attracting businesses and new jobs. But then when we had so many jobs that our biggest challenge was no longer how do we get everybody employed, but how do we find employees for every job that employers have created, I started to go to work on workforce development. This is what Joe Biden and Tony Evers just don't get, or they're just too weak to stand up to the bullies on the far left side of the fringes of their party. We need to make sure that people are going into the labor force. You look at what Tony Evers' policy was. He picked winners and losers as soon as COVID-19 swept across the state, and he basically told small businesses, we're not picking you. And I can't tell you the number of men and women across Wisconsin who have told me that Tony Evers told them, you are not essential to Wisconsin. And then when tens of thousands of Wisconsinites lost their jobs, you wouldn't even be bothered to pick up the phone over at the Department of Workforce Development to get them connected to the unemployment insurance that they were owed. People met with busy signals and hang-ups. Now, 18 months later, there are still people in adjudication waiting for their unemployment insurance checks. But then at the back end of this, when small businesses began to actually recover, Tony Evers was still paying people more to sit on the sidelines of the economy than to jump back in and take one of our available jobs.
So how do we get people back in the workforce?
Two ways. We need to, first of all, engage those people who were sidelined by stimulus checks and by unemployment and then the booster on top. We know that there are people who were sidelined with that very attractive offer to get paid truly more to sit out than jump back in, who saved up that money. We also know, according to many economists, that this tends not to be a long-term savings demographic, but that stimulus plus unemployment insurance has lifted a lot of those people's savings accounts. I can't tell you how long that is going to last before that savings is exhausted. I honestly believe, though, this demographic will jump back into the economy. It's incumbent upon us to encourage those folks to jump in sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, you guys right now are stuck paying an inflationary wage because we have inflation countrywide and people are dealing with affordability issues. The longer this continues, the more the problem's going to be exacerbated. So we need to make work more attractive than not working and getting a government check. What we did in the Rebecca Kleefisch administration is we asked our welfare recipients to either get work or work training in order to get their benefits. It worked, and we know the dignity of work works, and it influences generations, and it ends cycles of poverty. We need to make work pay, but we also need to make sure that those who are receiving welfare are either getting work or work training in order to get connected to those benefits. On top of that, we need to double the number of youth apprentices in Wisconsin, and we need to bring trades and vocational training to every K-12 school district across the state.
I love that. We just made a $1.5 million donation to the Boys and Girls Club in Dane County.
Thank you.
For the trade school that's going up there.
It matters.
That trade school is going to be so cool. It was the first one in the country for Boys and Girls Club, partnering with local businesses to have a trade school right within the boys. So after school, that's what they're doing. They're welding. They're going to make hands-on things.
People don't realize how much money you can make working in the construction industry. Really, any trade. I was talking to my auto guy before I came in here, and they are so backed up right now. They are working 7 days a week. Some people as many as 90 hours a week. Imagine what that costs in overtime. They just can't find enough mechanics. You guys probably can't find nearly enough people to do the carpentry work and the installation, the plumbing, the electrical wiring, you name it. And this is a countrywide phenomenon. It's not just Wisconsin. That's why we need to train up more workers who can jump into the workforce making $18, $19 an hour. How do you like to be 21 years old and buying your own truck or buying your own condo or your place up north of snowmobiles? It's pretty exciting what you can do.
I think on top of that, then the third thing I would say, technology. So at least for Drexel, for my little plug, is we're doing off-site construction. So we're investing millions and millions of dollars into manufacturing to actually build your house in a factory. Saves at least double the labor on site. So now we need less carpenters because carpenters just can't evolve. So I think a combination of all that will help the problems. Interesting fact, I just read that this morning. The average savings of a person in the country at one point was as high as 30% of their annual salary. And that is actually back and normalized. So a little bit, people are normalizing, which means they will be looking for secondary jobs to buy that big screen TV, which is a good thing for small business owners like Holden and his father, who own a bar and restaurant, and he works 4 jobs to just maintain the workforce, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless you for doing it,
Yeah,
though.
amen, brother. Well, this
Because
one's easy, so it's like 3.1 jobs.
We need more young people to understand that this is the key to your American dream. This is your key to financial freedom, and you're going to have a leg up on the competition.
So we are, with the WMC, we are helping to sue our federal government for the COVID mandate.
You know what's funny is I actually encouraged Tony Evers to sue. Winds up that you have to take the reins into your own hands to make it happen.
Are you, okay, sidebar, are you friends with Christy Nome because you're so much like her?
I know Christy. I know Christy Nome all the time. I know Christy Nome. We are both hunters, and we are both women, I guess.
You guys haven't like hung. You haven't done like Girls Weekend in Dorconia.
Well, she lives in South Dakota.
Yeah.
She kind of needs
I'm
to be there.
I'm aware.
I live in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I
but
kind
you
of need
can
to
still
be
do like a Girls
here.
Weekend somewhere. Not right now.
Not right now. No, I need to win
I don't know if
back.
you're like chummy.
I need to win back the executive branch here in the state of Wisconsin, so you don't have to take it upon yourself to sue the federal government along with Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce against a completely unconstitutional vaccine mandate that Tony Evers and Joe Biden and pals have imposed on small business owners and the freedom-loving people of America. It's completely illegal and complete government overreach for the federal government to tell you what healthcare procedures you must take. And so thank you so much for saluting the Constitution with what you do and what you did. You took a stand, and it matters. And for all of you who support this, it matters. And listen, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, and I'm not a COVID denier. In fact, I've been vaccinated. I read the articles that said, wow, you won't miss a day of work and you won't get COVID sick. And sure enough, of course, I did get COVID. However, I didn't make that choice because government compelled me in some way, shape, or form. I made that choice as a freedom-loving American, and I should not make that choice for you or anyone else in this country, and neither should government. Government needs to back off. Thank you for telling them that.
No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, as an employer, as me paying their paychecks, to say that you have to be one way or another, I can't stand behind it either. And yes, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not Mr. Misinformation. And people have gotten very sick here at Drexel and are still out sick with COVID. It's a very, very serious respiratory virus. But I have yet to see in any country or state, and I follow it very religiously, where any of this has actually worked. Like, there's not a case study somewhere, Sri Lanka, Ireland, Brazil, where it's worked. It just has not worked. So it's just, we have to deal with it. It's a big, big, big thing.
And it's sad that we have to now sue in order to prevent big government from reaching into our lives so far that it would invade the privacy between a doctor and a patient relationship. But unfortunately, that's the position I guess we're just in now. It's fortunate that you are suing on this, because I had encouraged Tony Evers to do it. Interestingly enough, he chose not to. But I am also suing right now as well the Wisconsin Elections Commission on some of the lawlessness that they have brought into our lives regarding unlawful promulgation of rules. They're doing things with our elections process that's absolutely wrong, and they have absolutely no intention of stopping. So we have to sue over that. How did we get to a place where in this country we now have to go to the judicial branch in order to get the rights that our Constitution guarantees us? Well,
beyond that, if you listen to, they're actually saying don't even listen to the courts, mandate anyway on a business level. And I'm like, no, there's 3 branches of the government. I believe this is still America, and I trust that. I'm going to do a slingshot. So are you going to be 18 for the election?
I will be 18. Yeah, I'll be 18.
Yeah, you'll be 18 for election. So you're going to vote. You got to vote in this race. And so speaking as an 18-year-old, and you're very, very smart and wise, and you debate all day long at the lunch table, I hear. And you're going to school to be a lawyer.
Hopefully.
Right?
So very good.
You'll be part of this world and hopefully going to Madison.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll go to Madison.
Yeah. So what question do you have for our next governor?
I need to prepare myself.
I have
Oh, you gotta
I have an
prepare.
18-year-old
You
too.
can do this. You can do this. Just
Okay.
come on. Just
I
lay something on
have
the
an
table.
18-year-old too, and she just graduated from high school, and I've got a 15-year-old, and so I know that this age demographic has become more cautious than prior generations with your finances because you have watched your parents go through the Great Recession, 07 through 09. For us, we sold our house. I was at home with my kids and couponing like crazy. Has that informed your financial behaviors? Like, are you a saver, and do you see that among your peers?
My dad drills into me like good money habits, like because I make a lot of tip money at the bar, so it's a lot of cash, a lot of ones, a lot of 20s, and it's sometimes hard to keep track of that. Like over a few months, it would grow into like 3,000s, and I'd just be keeping in my room. So he would like write down a sheet of paper, keep it in bands. Like you should never have to count the money because one band is 100, and you just do that. So he like savings and knowing how much money you have. I don't know if that's common among all parents and kids, but that's definitely common among my household.
So have you got a question yet? You have
okay.
to.
Okay.
I knew you would.
Okay. I don't know if this is something that the governor could do, but I feel like, at least at my school, there's a lot of lack of help with kids in their future, and I feel like at my school, there's a lot of kids who don't know what they're doing, and I know counselors, there's all these things they offer, but no action is really taken, and there's a lot of unnecessary things that are done at our school that don't help kids with their future and don't help them figure out what they want to do, and there's a lot of...
So there's a lot of money spent, a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it doesn't make an impact. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
So go ahead.
So, like, for example, like there's unnecessary times in our ELT where I feel like there should be more instruction. And, for example, a few weeks ago, we were talking about getting our high school transcript, and we have to do it ourselves, but we spent 15 minutes on it, and we watched a video, and they took us to a website, but there was no instruction on what we have to do and how to get our high school transcript. And they were talking about how important it is to make sure you get that, because some people don't get it, like they use it for college, but then they don't actually receive their transcript, and when they go to get a job, they'll be asked about it, and like, oh, I don't have it. So that's just one example of we were never helped in how to get that.
So I guess your thoughts on development of the youth, right?
Academic and career planning is something that we instituted under the Rebecca Kleefisch administration, starting all the way back in middle school. The unfortunate and tough thing when you have something like that across the state is every school district chooses to implement it in a slightly different way, and a lot of it is very parent and kid driven. So if you don't take the bull by the horns, or if you're unwilling to show up at the school board meeting and say, hey, I've identified a problem, a lot of these things just slide under the radar. So as a mom, one of the things that I have done is really encouraged my kids to do job shadows. And there are some schools that do it in a very organized fashion, like well beyond the career day where you go and you spend half an hour with each professional who's come to your school. I've actually encouraged my kids to actually go out on the day, requested via email to the principal that, the kid's going to be absent, she's doing a job shadow. And they very much encourage it. But what I've noticed is we don't see a lot of that formalized across the state. Now you're talking about college applications and getting the transcript, and incidentally, that kid just went through
Honestly,
this process.
it's not just that. It's in the actual teaching of the coursework too, and I feel, hopefully teachers don't listen to this, but I feel like there's a lot of teachers that are kind of lazy with what they teach us, and I see a lot of kids that don't really do anything, and I feel like it's almost too easy.
I think sometimes what you see inside our schools is the result of two things. School boards and lack of activism among parents. But the good news is COVID, for as bad as it was for public education, because in many cases you actually saw kids locked out of their schools for a year and a half here in Wisconsin because of Tony Evers. So he could kind of remain beholden to the union bosses who buy and pay for his elections. Now I say union bosses there, and I don't say teachers for a very important reason. Teachers, the teachers I know, probably the teachers, most of the teachers you know, have been heartbroken by what has happened over the last year and a half. They have been deeply saddened and affected by their kids falling behind. And in many cases, we're looking at a year and a half of learning loss, plus an epidemic of anxiety and depression. But the result of that has often been parents getting so angry, and that anger motivating them to show up at school board meetings, and in some cases actually run for school board themselves to hold administrators and teachers accountable. So maybe what we need is more activism in your school district, but we are seeing it across Wisconsin. You know, in Wisconsin, we have the second most school board recalls of any state in the country besides California. That's extraordinary to me, because that shows that moms and dads are getting angry and getting active. And so if you want more teacher accountability, the way to do it is to get active, show up at the school board meetings, but then additionally, I would say contribute to your kids' education, or your own. Like in the case of this transcript issue, I remember I had to get active and sit next to Ella and say, okay, let's Google this, to find out exactly how you get your transcripts to her college, because it was not only the high school transcript, but also, if you are out there taking advantage of some of our programs where you can take college credits during high school for the low price of high school.
That's what I'm doing in January.
Good for you. Good. Take as much as you can. Do it on the cheap. You're also going to need to request those credits to be transcripted and sent to your eventual university, which sounds to me like it's going to be the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Hopefully. And I'll give credit to where he goes to school and my children do in Kewaskum. Great school board, great people. They have a great work-to-school program.
And you guys are lucky.
They have over hundreds of children that take that.
That's
very
awesome.
Developed program.
I did the forum for them last year.
Even doing that, we have a lot of work-at-school homes, and I love that even beyond Job Shadow, because Job Shadow is just a taste.
Yeah.
If you want to really try a career and see something, work at school, do it for a couple hours. It's a wonderful program.
Indeed.
I do think sometimes you take it too far, where senior year you're taking 1 or 2 classes your entire senior year. I think that might be too far. I would love to see more education and harder classes and push these children. And sometimes the C's okay, wakes you up a little bit. So I understand where you're coming from, Holden. You're looking for higher standards.
That's why I'm going halfway through this trimester, and I'm taking classes at Washington County just to start getting college.
Oh, you're on.
Good for
He's
you.
on. He's doing
Good for you.
He's a good kid.
Make sure they're all transferable to the school of your choice, because it's going to make a huge difference in your bottom line. Because so many students, the average student loan debt in Wisconsin today is about $30,000. And if you don't want to take that on, then you're doing the exact right thing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One question, then we got to do the billboard.
Okay.
Inflation. What are we going to do about inflation? I believe personally in the building industry, we are poised for 2022 hyperinflation. So lumber is a traded commodity. That went through the roof. I think almost everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. But that's a traded commodity. So that is just flattened out. Mm-hmm. And that's cyclical, and that may go up and down. But hyperinflation, and what I'm saying is the soft products, anything to do with steel, petroleum, or overseas, we're seeing increases that are usually we get a 90-day increase announcement. So if you're building a house, we give you a heads up forewarning, get this on order. We got 90 days. They're giving us unannounced increases of 10 to 15% every 90 days. So it's not hyperinflation at any one time, but over the course of 6 months, you're looking at a 30-40% increase. I think that's just starting. And I don't know where it ends, and I don't know how we stop it. Under your administration, how would you address it? Well, that was like a debate question.
The best way that a state official can stop hyperinflation is to replace the President of the United States. So you know that Wisconsin is a presidential bellwether state. You know that we are also a 50-50 state. Our 10 electoral votes are up for grabs in 2024. I would argue that the reason for investing your time, your effort, your money by going to RebeccaForGovernor.com is to not only get me across the finish line for good leadership in the state of Wisconsin, but so that I can help our presidential nominee across the finish line in 2024. We can take back the White House, and we can end this garbage that has caused everything to be unaffordable.
That's great. Great answer. So I love this question. Go donate, give her money, but why do we need to give, this is a good 18-year-old question. Hell, it's a good 47-year-old question. Why do I need to give money to somebody that's running for governor? Where does that money go? Why do you need it? Why is it important?
So this is your political speech. You're busy doing your job every day. You're busy being a student every day. I am your proxy. I will get this governance done. I will save the state because you guys are too busy to do it yourselves. You have to go and keep our economy going. I'm a state policy expert, and I spend my every day on the road meeting with voters and developing the policy that will get us to becoming the jewel of the Midwest once again. People just want to take back control, and if you want to take back control, then this is the way you do it. How will we spend your money if you give us $10? We're probably right now going to put it in the gas tank because it's a huge state, and so we spend a lot of time on the road. And not only that, we're paying for the hosting of the website, and eventually we're going to be paying for human beings who are going to help identify our voters, and then they are going to contact them endlessly until we know they have actually gone and voted. In Wisconsin, I mentioned that we're a 50-50 state. That means the Democrats come in expecting 48% of the vote. Republicans come in expecting to get 48% of the vote. We all fight for that 4% in the middle. It's like a 12-month-long knife fight in a phone booth. And if that is the case, then rather than focus on this 48% that we know is reliably Democrat, let's instead focus on this 4%, identify our potential voters in that 4%, and then once we've identified those people, let's make sure we are getting our people to contact them, build relationships with them, talk to them about the things they care about most so that we're using a rifle approach. We're well targeted to the people that we need to talk to about the things they want to hear about, rather than a shotgun approach of throwing a whole bunch of television commercials on network affiliate TV. When's the last time you watched network affiliate television? You watch a show on NBC or CBS or ABC?
Like a TV show or like
4, 6, or 12. You have 4, 6, or 12 on at any time in your life.
Or do you watch a streaming service and YouTube and social media? Right.
But do you click through it?
What?
Do you click through the ads or do you watch them?
Well, on Netflix, well, YouTube, you get 5 seconds. You have to watch the end. Skip.
He's proving our point. So
I just skipped the end.
we're not gonna take your money if you contribute to our campaign at RebeccaForGovernor.com. We're not gonna take your money and spend it on stuff of the past. We're going to use your investment, and we're going to identify our voters, and we are going to talk to them about the things that matter to them. We're going to get them out to the polls, and we are going to take down Tony Evers and retake control of this state and give it back to the people of Wisconsin.
And I'm sure you're saying that, and engage the 48% to get your butt out and vote.
Bingo.
Right? Either way, even if you're Democrat, please just vote. Your vote matters. Your vote always matters. You can't say that enough. That's why we're in America. It's our freedoms. It's our right.
It's true.
We earned it. People died for it. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. We can't ever forget that. So we would love to have you on for hours and hours. She's working 12 to 16 hours a day. So she kind of gave that up before the podcast started. So she's got to be in other places. I got to be in other places. So thank you for coming on. It's so
What about the
awesome.
billboard?
We're doing that right now.
Okay, let's go.
It's my podcast.
I'm sorry.
People always try to hijack my podcast.
I
gotta get better at it. That's it. She's got high energy.
Clearly,
Who's the last person who did it,
I need
Raina?
to have a couple more
Raina
sips
was
of
the last
my...
person who did that. Right?
Raina, we actually had Raina. Shout out to Raina. She actually tried to hijack the podcast, started asking me questions. I'm like, oh no, we're not doing that.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Good for her. She tried. It didn't work out well for her though.
No.
Anyway, that's okay. So yes, the final question that everyone comes on my podcast, all 45 of them. Who's the 45th president? Anybody know?
Donald Trump.
That was like a low-hanging fruit.
It's a gimme.
So 45 famous 45 number sports teams, sports players. I mean, 45.
I got nothing.
45 is a weird number. Sometimes
I
you
know
can't
12, I know 23.
Yeah, right.
I know 80.
4.
Yeah, 4, exactly.
Yeah, all good. Braylon Allen is
He's 0.
0. Yeah, I should know that by now. Yeah, oh, bad Badger fan. Shame. Wow, horrible. We'll edit that part out. Okay, so
There's
last
no
question. There's famous 45. Oh, Michael Jordan was 45, 23, 45. We'll go with that one. Okay, so billboard, you have this big giant billboard. Millions of people are going to see it. It's going to stay for a very long time. It doesn't cost you a cent. You can put whatever you want on it. What do you put on it and why?
Back to work, back to school, back the badge, and give government back to the people. I put those things on it. They are the fundamental tenets of what we the people stand for in the state of Wisconsin right now, and what Tony Evers has failed to do. And I'm glad it's going to be up in perpetuity, because as soon as we're done winning this campaign, I want you to hold me to it. Because those are the things that the people of Wisconsin demand of their leaders. Those are the things that we have seen as failures over the last 2.5 years. And I don't know about you, but I'm done with this malaise. I am done with not seeing family and not seeing friends and not having fun and not being able to get together for joy or for business, not seeing inventory, not being able to afford things, having the fill up of my propane tank make me worry about whether I'm also going to be able to afford health insurance this month, and worrying about violent crime coming into a neighborhood near me. I'm a parent of a band kid and a dance team kid. She competes against Waukesha Extreme. I knew one of the women who was killed. I have a friend whose granddaughter remains in the hospital in a medically induced coma today because a violent criminal was allowed to walk free. We need to get serious about this stuff, and so that's why I say back to work. We talked a lot about the economy. Back to school. We talked a lot about education. Back the badge. We need to get serious about protecting families and give government back to the people. We need election integrity, and on top of that, we need to make sure we have healthcare freedom.
Doesn't that seem easy enough? School, work, police protection, right? And fair voting? I don't know. That just seems really easy.
Seems simple to me. Back to work, back to school, back the badge, give government back to the people. RebeccaForGovernor.com.
RebeccaForGovernor.com. RebeccaForGovernor.com. Thanks for coming on. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Cheers.
Peace. Cheers.